This time on Classic Motorcycle A to Z, it's the letter W. Wilkinson was a company famous as a manufacturer of swords, and today, of course, razor blades. But like any other arms manufacturer, they needed something to keep the works going while the world was being a bit inconveniently peaceful. And so it was that in 1903, Wilkinson built their first motorcycle. This used a simple, single-cylinder proprietary engine. This machine was produced for a very short period only. However, their next effort in 1908 was rather different. It was designed by young P.G. Tachi. He was a young designer who patented a design intended for use as a military vehicle, which would be equipped with a Maxim gun mounted on the handlebars. Wilkinson were very interested in the project, and although ultimately did not win a military contract, they decided to proceed with production. They replaced the proprietary V-twin engine and forks of Tachi's original design with an inline 4-cylinder motor of their own. And in 1909, introduced their first version of the motorcycle, which can best be thought of as a sort of Edwardian era Goldwing, comfortable seat and footboards and all. The engine was an inline 4 of 676 cc's, which initially was air cooled and was mounted to a 3-speed gearbox via a dry car-type clutch. In 1911, a revised version of the TMC, or Wilkinson Touring Motorcycle, was introduced. This featured an enlarged engine, with the bore and stroke increased to 60 by 75, giving 848 cc's. And this newer version of the side valve engine also featured water cooling. The transmission remained unchanged. There was a single armchair-like seat, behind which was mounted the oil tank. At the front of the machine there were hefty girder forks manufactured by Saxon, while rear suspension was taken care of by 4 leaf springs. There's no doubt that by the standards of the time the machine was absolutely massive, but top speed of around 50 miles an hour meant that it was quite a mover by the standards of the day. The final version of the machine would appear in 1913. This machine would include some styling changes and an engine now enlarged to 996 cc's. But the following year came World War I and Wilkinson would return to their primary business. And with only just over 200 machines actually manufactured, Wilkinson decided not to return to the market in the post-war era. The Wulf was a 500cc parallel twin 2-stroke developed by Bernard Hooper in the 1970s. Hooper is an engineer best known for his association with Villiers motorcycles and the Starmaker engine, but he also played a major part in the development of the Norton Commando. The Wulf was unusual because it used a step piston. This 2-diameter piston effectively used the lower half of the piston to provide a pressurising chamber for the upper chamber on the opposite cylinder, a concept first devised by the Dunlop firm in the 1920s. This does unfortunately mean that the piston is heavier than a standard 2-stroke. However, the crankcase is not used to pressurise the gases, and so can be wet sump just like a conventional 4-stroke. Thus the bottom end of the engine is both easier and cheaper to manufacture than a conventional 2-stroke, and also more durable. Peak power was said to be comparable to the equivalent conventional 2-stroke, although torque was claimed to be superior. Unfortunately, MVT simply lacked the resources to fully develop the machine and bring it to market. After the collapse of MVT in the mid-70s, Hooper would join forces with John Fable to form a consultancy firm which would develop the step piston for various applications, including automotive, defence, marine and industrial purposes. And another consultancy firm would continue after Hooper's death. No production machine would ever be graced by the stepped piston engine. Wanderer was a German company established in 1896 and manufactured bicycles, motorcycles, automobiles, vans and other machinery. In 1902 they would produce their first motorcycle, with cars following the year after. Right from the beginning, Wanderer used their own motors in both single-cylinder and V-twin forms, and their designs were very advanced for the time, featuring unit construction and front and rear suspension from 1915 onwards. In 1925 the company would introduce a lightweight machine with a horizontally mounted engine, just like the model you can see here. This was initially of 184 cc's but would later grow to 196 cc. But unfortunately these machines were expensive to manufacture and were thus not a commercial success. Production ended in 1929. At the other extreme, the company would introduce a 708cc V-twin with 4 valves per cylinder in 1924. And in 1928 the V-twin would be enlarged to 748cc and be available with either 2 or 4 valves per cylinder. In 1929 the single-cylinder K500 model was licensed by Czech manufacturer Janeček, who would subsequently purchase the tooling for the model to form the basis of the Java or Yawa mark. To replace the small capacity horizontal engine, Wanderer began to use machines with 98cc two-stroke Sachs-built engines during the 1930s, and these would remain in production until 1958. And these would prove some of the last vehicles produced under the Wanderer name. As a company, rather like its major competitors NSU, was absorbed into the mighty Auto Union concern, bringing an end to the Wanderer name as a vehicle manufacturer, although it would continue to live on for many years as the Java or Jawa, and the Auto Union group into which it was absorbed is now of course Audi Group today. Well, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching.